And I'm really interested to see exactly what Show's breakdown in his deck is. He tends to be a very greedy player with a lot of his constructions. Let's head to Becca to get the match underway.
Thanks, J9. All right, we're ready for our first player to come onto the stage, the Mythic Invitational competitor. You know him from streaming from Stockholm, Sweden, Jeffrey Brusi, a.k.a. Sjow. Against him is one of the greatest players of all time, coming back after a break, but the Hall of Famer, the German juggernaut, Kai Budde. All right, we've got Marshall and Paul in the booth that are going to take you through this match.
Thank you, Becca. Appreciate it. Paul Chan, Marshall Sutcliffe, and boy, the old versus the new in the feature match here, Paul.
The very old.
Yeah, we've got Kai Budde, one of my favorite players. I like to tease him, but the truth is, I'm actually just a big fan of his. This is a guy that has the most standout career of anybody.
Right.
It's not necessarily like you can make arguments about the best, right? John Finkel probably holds that title, but he won 7 Pro Tours back in the day.
Right.
Like, top eights.
Yeah. If he top eighted, he was very likely to win.
Yeah.
And nobody's peak comes close to when Kai dominated the Pro Tour back in the day. It was incredible. That's when I first started getting into competitive Magic myself, where every time I would go on the website to see who won, it was just Kai. And there was even kind of a side prop bet. Another pro player was like, look, if Kai wins this Pro Tour, I'm going to eat my hat.
Yeah.
And he was a man of his word and actually ate an entire hat because Kai just won another Pro Tour.
It's incredible stuff to see a legend of our game in the feature match here at the Mythic Championship. On the other side of the table, Jeffrey Brusi, of course, relative newcomer, when you compare it to somebody like Kai. But as we saw in the intro there at the analyst desk, the guy puts in his reps, right? Yeah. Popular streamer, and he jams. Let's get into the game here. We've got... look at that, Mythic Kai. I like how that looks on there. So Sjow, on the bottom part of our screen, we're going to be following along with him for the most part here. And we have a not mirror match. We have 2 Esper decks, but they're not the same build.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've asked multiple players what they feel about this matchup, kind of from both sides. And, ultimately, I think the response I got was, you know what, it's close. Because, if you look at a lot of the cards and the way they line up, both decks are kind of 80% the same cards, and then it's the difference between Hero of Precinct 1 versus Kaya's Wrath. But they kind of negate each other. So oftentimes it's just kind of a slugfest, and which deck you kind of choose to bring to this tournament is just you deciding what you think is better positioned, Hero of Precinct 1 or Kaya's Wrath.
So what do you think?
I think Kaya's Wrath was kind of the way to go for this event.
Did you just put them in the arena together, like Kaya's Wrath versus Hero, and say, well, which one wins this particular fight? Because the math does play out.
Yeah, well, I mean, oftentimes what a lot of the top teams and top players will do is they'll kind of create their own like metagame matchup matrix or a grid that kind of shows you the what's your favorite game, what you're not, what you're expecting, and then you just kind of run all the numbers and just kind of come to a conclusion, which do you like more?
Okay, the play, by the way, underway here. We see Narset Part of Veils and a search for Escanta down for Sjow. Another thing I want to highlight here as we get into this match are the records of the players. These players are both 2-1 coming into the round, and there's some important numbers that you need to be aware of as a viewer at home as you're following your favorite players along. 6 is the first number that you need to know. That is the number to advance to day 2. If you pick up the 6th match win of the day, you're through. You don't even have to play the rest. You're done. You're out in Vegas on the strip. You're getting some dinner, whatever it is that you want to do, because you're through. 3rd loss, not great. 4th loss, you're done.
Right.
So that's the other side of that equation. So right now, these 2 players are on track. They're both at 2-1. Just need to keep running it up. But of course, one of these players will leave this match with a 2-2 record and start to question if they brought the right deck and all the things that goes through there. So what are we looking at here? We've got Teferi, Time Raveler versus Narset and Search, but no Hero of Precinct 1 in sight here for Kai.
Yeah, but Search for Azcanta is one of the strongest cards in the matchup because it is a way for you to get ahead on cards, but it doesn't actually get blanked by an opposing Narset Part or Veils because you're digging through your deck, not actually drawing additional cards. On top of that, it's a really difficult permanent to get rid of. There's not a lot of Mortifies that are being played anymore. If anybody plays any, it's like one tops. That's kind of what we've seen. That's kind of what we've seen in terms of the evolution of the removal suite. So if Search for Azcanta resolves, you're likely good. And you can see here, Kai actually running out Hostage Taker because Sjow has no creatures in his deck. So he wants to get the pressure going. He wants to play that Hostage Taker to get that Narset off the battlefield so he can start drawing cards with his Teferis.
Wow. Kai is probably thinking to himself, this is not like when I used to win everything. It is funny, though, to talk about the evolution of the game as well. You know, I would describe most of what we see in Standard these days as wars of attrition. Right, there are ways to try to get ahead on resources, whether on board or with your cards. There's other takes, of course, with some really aggressive decks and even some combo type stuff, but so much of it comes down to matchups like this one. When Kai was running the show, when he was crushing everybody, the decks didn't look like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it was a completely different world where players had access to less information. You know, there was a lot of value in testing with a team and bringing a deck that nobody knew about. Now, kind of in the age of information where everybody just has access to all the optimal deck lists, it's really about just kind of outplaying your opponents. It's
Execution.
a lot. Exactly. It's a lot more, you know, you have to get those tiny edges, you know, up a card in small spots where you can. It's a lot harder to just kind of bring a deck that nobody really expects, especially right now where we're in a Standard environment where, you know, War of the Spark Standard has been out for a month or a month and a half. So, you know, a lot of the archetypes and strategies have already been kind of fleshed out.
Interesting here, Hostage Taker takes a swipe at Narset, and while Sjow does have the answer in hand with Cast Down, he can't play it, and bang, down goes Narset. This is a good turn of events here for Kai. He's got Search for Azcanta off the battlefield, if only temporarily, and can start using Teferi Time Raveler to his advantage. And it's not getting any better here for Sjow, because there's, as we call him, Big Teferi Hero of Dominaria, to wipe away the board. There's nothing left now for Sjow.
Yeah,
that was a disaster.
That was a really big turn. But now Sjow has a Commander Dreadhorde, but I don't think there's a lot of relevant permanents in the graveyard just yet. So it looks like he's going to try to come back with that Search for Azcanta that he has currently in play.
Okay, that is a fine way to come back, as we've seen multiple times already. Interesting, by the way, just again contrasting these two players. You know, Sjow kind of has the same type of work ethic that Kai did in Kai's great runs back in the late 90s, early 2000s. You saw the number of games played on Arena. It's like 10,000 plus for Sjow. I mean, he's a worker.
Yeah, not only was Kai considered, you know, one of the best players, but he also had kind of a legendary work ethic where he just put in more hours than anybody else and just knew exactly what you were going to do. Yeah. And so I think, you know, you see the same thing with Sjow. Over 10,000 matches of Arena played and mostly constructed, too, on top of that. So he is going to be very familiar with how every single matchup in this format plays out.
Maybe he'll be the new Kai.
It's possible.
Is it? 7 wins? I don't even know.
I don't
anymore.
think I don't know if that's going to be possible in kind of modern Magic, but I think it's certainly on the table where we could see a new superstar come up, kind of the way, you know, Kai did.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody's going to eat a hat at some point. It's inevitable. Here's Instant Speed Thought Erasure now from Kai, taking a look at double Search for Azcanta in hand plus Narset and that Command the Dreadhorde, which could be a big player if the game goes long.
And Kai with the, not bad. You know, pretty good hand. You know, his plan here was to get rid of that Search for Azcanta so that Sjow can't get ahead on cards. But now that there's 2 searches, you know, it's kind of redundant. You're not going to get a whole lot by taking one of them. So he might choose to take something else. Yeah,
that's exactly what he did, Paul. He took Command the Dreadhorde to stave off the blowout potential of that card. And look at this. Sjow's getting into it.
What is he listening to? What's even happening back there?
I don't know. Hopefully he's okay there. He does look like he's feeling quite a bit of stress at the moment. And I can't blame him for that. We're under the hot lights, and he is playing one of the best players ever to play our game. But I'm hoping he's okay there. He does look like he's struggling a bit.
This is a bit concerning.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
I saw that Kai noticed, too, so he's keeping an eye, but Sjow going to run out Narset, Parter of Veils.
A lot of good options here. You got Thought Erasure and Teferi. Probably just going to go with the Teferi here. Kai has 4 lands in hand, so Kai will be very happy if he gets that Thought Erasure going.
I wouldn't hate it if we
Can't
just had
cast
maybe
it.
somebody check in with Sjow and make sure he's doing okay there.
Yeah.
It seems like he's back on track as far as playing goes, but I just want to make sure he's healthy.
Kai's drawn lots of lands, so needs to find something here. Sjow can now flip Search for Azcanta next turn, so I would not be surprised if Kai looks to bounce that Search. But however, Narset is in play too, so Kai is not actually able to draw cards with Big Teferi here. He's just going to plus it here to add a loyalty onto it, but he will not be able to draw that additional card. But he might want to at least slow down Sjow from getting that activation from Search for Azcanta, so he might choose to minus Teferi.
Now he's got that coveted 1-2 punch with both the Teferis on the battlefield. Gives you a nice combination of card advantage, the ability to keep your opponent off balance, and then the ever annoying presence of Teferi Time Raveler's static ability as well. That is a lot of abilities tied up in those 2 planeswalkers. And I guess we shouldn't be surprised that they work well together. They're kind of the same person.
Yeah. And Kaya's Wrath, of course, not especially strong right now. So we now have a flipped Search for Azcanta. We have Azcanta the Sunken Ruin, and this is going to be highly, highly effective. No answer to it once it flips, with the exception of a Teferi Hero of Dominaria emblem. Ooh, and some big draws here. We have Oath of Kaya here, which you can use to fire off on Teferi Hero of Dominaria. Get that off the battlefield.
Some good news there for Sjow as well. He says, yeah, I like that.
And you know what? I think Sjow's turning this around because
yeah, it
now
really does look like
he's
it.
gonna look at how strong this Narset is being. By the way,
Yep.
Narset not only got Sjow 2 cards, but just its static alone is just shutting down both of the Teferis.
Yeah, it's so brutal. And now Oath of Kaya is going to finish off Teferi Hero. I think you're right, Paul. I think that the flood out situation here on Kai's side of the battlefield has really left him hanging. Though he does find Narset Parter of Veils of his own now.
Yeah, that is a good draw. That does allow him to find some cards. Sjow does have the answer here. He can play Teferi Time Raveler, bounce his own Oath of Kaya, and then recast it to deal with the Narset on 3. Also, he's not really drawing additional cards. He's just finding extra cards with Azcanta. And you know, this is a common thing. This is how kind of this matchup plays out. Both players just using all their threats, all their removal spells, all their hand disruption. You just see all these planeswalkers going back and forth. And then oftentimes what ends up winning the game is a card like Command the Dreadhorde. It's like, okay, we're both at like 27. We both use a bunch of Oath of Kayas. And it's like, okay, I'm going to use Command the Dreadhorde to get a bunch of planeswalkers into play and just kind of snowball the game. Alternatively, another common way that these decks try to go off is kind of sandbagging the 1-2 combination of Teferi Hero of Dominaria plus Elder Spell. Oftentimes there's going to be a ton of planeswalkers on the battlefield. So if you can go Teferi, Elder Spell, kill a bunch of walkers, including your own if you want, to make sure you get that emblem off right away, that usually will prompt the concession.
Yeah, that's one of the sort of shortcut victories
Right.
that's available here. Of course, the Command the Dreadhorde also serves that purpose of this thing happened, oh, the game is over now. But
Right. Oh, look at this, though. Kai stringing together some permanents here. But that Narset,
does
wow.
he have to get rid of the Narset with his
Oh, it feels so bad. And remember, Sjow can just activate Azcanta to just replay that Narset next
Yeah,
turn.
that's right. So it doesn't really get him. It just like buys him some loyalty
Right.
and makes him use up a little mana. So no, he's just going to do the cold plus where he gets to untap the lands but doesn't get the card. So here's your ice cream cone. No ice cream.
Look at that. It's 3v1. One planeswalker versus 3, but the little one's winning right now. There's no pressure here coming from Kai.
All right. Replacement Narset or an Oath of Kaya.
Yeah.
And that looks like it could knock out the opposing Narset here or whatever. There it goes.
You get that Narset off the board. Now Sjow has the option of playing out Teferi Time Raveler, bouncing Oath of Kaya. Now he can draw the card if he chooses to bounce Oath of Kaya. And then replay it to get Teferi Hero of Dominaria down to 2, just so that Teferi can't tuck any of the permanents in play. There's also the fear of potentially Kaya top decking something like an Elder Spell and getting that emblem off onto Teferi. That's, I think, one of the few ways that Kai can top deck his way out of this.
Kind of steal this in one fell swoop.
Right.
Right. He could still fight back with a bunch of good draws, but
of course,
that's one of the things, of course, that Sjow is looking at. Like, well, I don't want to just lose on the spot. Especially since he is in a good position here, thanks to, once again, we keep saying it, but as Kanta the Sunken Ruin just doing serious work here, as you mentioned, Kai not long on answers for that. And Jeffrey's just being able to really take advantage.
Completely dead card here in Tyrant Scorn. And that is why I think the version, the control version is slightly favored game 1, because they have 0 creatures, and of course we know that the Esper Hero deck does still play some interaction, right? You're going to play some copies of Tyrant Scorn in your deck, so those cards are just not going to do anything. After sideboard, of course, you take all those dead cards out, and then it becomes a more even matchup.
Where on the other side, none of these cards are truly dead here for Jeffrey.
Exactly. Cards like Cast Down still have a target, right? If your opponents play Elite Guard Mage or Basilica Bellhunt, you're still going to be able to get something.
And once again, you can see Sjow just flexing the muscle that is as Kanta, and it's just unrelenting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're sitting there in Kai's seat, you know, he drew a couple extra lands, now he draws a dead card, and meanwhile, Show's drawing random card plus spell every turn.
Right. I mean, you're just effectively activating Narset every single turn. That's
right.
kind of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this is just going to be extremely difficult for Kai to get out of. At this point, we're kind of looking for haymakers, cards like Elder Spell, cards like Command the Dreadhorde. Those are the things that Kai's looking for, because a singular removal spell is just not going to get it done.
No. That will simply delay the inevitable at this point. There's Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, on the battlefield now for both players. Big Teferi's going to give little Teferi the punt here. Get off my lawn, he says. Passes the turn back over to Kai. And he's going to get Thought Erased here as well.
Yeah, the draw step Thought Erasure.
Yeah.
Cast at instant speed,
So
thanks to Teferi.
Cool
Little
trio of lands.
Yeah. Yeah, but Jeffrey just has all the resources here. Sjow has all the resources. He's got the Azcanta going, more lands, more life, more planeswalkers. He's got it all. He just needs to find a way to kind of seal the deal here.
What does that look like?
Oftentimes, what you want to be doing, kind of what we saw in previous versions of Esper Control, is try to get to Teferi up to the emblem. Get a Teferi emblem going, and then once you kind of run your opponent out of permanence, then you can continue to tuck Teferi Hero of Dominaria and make it so that you don't deck yourself. That is one way you can win. And that's a common way to win, especially in this kind of Esper mirror.
In reality, perhaps Kai will decide he's had enough at some point and
possible,
pack it
yes.
in. Yeah.
And one of the few creatures in Show's deck, I believe he has a few copies of Basilica Bellhunt in his deck, but that is basically it. Nice thing about that one, though, especially when you play against Esper Heroes, is Tyrant Scorn actually doesn't kill the Basilica Bellhunt. You can simply just bounce it.
Yeah, which isn't great either.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got 3 of those in the main.
It's a nice creature to, I mean, it's just a powerful card in general, but it's a nice way to pad your life total so that when you do draw one of your 2 Command the Dreadhordes, you actually have enough life to actually be able to get enough relevant permanents. Oh, and here is a really big draw here. Elder Spell will expedite the process here for Sjow. He can emblem that Teferi very soon.
Yeah, caused a bit of carnage on the board as far as all the other planeswalkers go, but hey, it's worth it. And Kai is going to pack it in. He drew a hollowed fountain off the top of the library, and that is game number 1 going to Sjow. So we're going to hit up sideboards here and start to transform our deck. Of course, for Kai, that will be a source of relief as he will take out those dead cards. What about for Sjow, though? We're watching Sjow here. You know, attempt his sideboard plan. Big questions, right? He's got those Kaya's Wraths. Does he still want them? Is he going to expect Kai to board out Hero of Precinct 1? What's the
I would
little
guess
guessing
that,
game here?
Yeah, I mean, I would guess that Kai would keep in Hero Precinct 1. It's just such a nice threat to have early. It goes underneath the rest, and the fact that you just have something that allows you to pressure those 3-mana Planeswalkers is very important. I mean, I know your opponent can have some number of Oath of Kaya, but, you know, one of the win conditions is duress into Hero Precinct 1 into a bunch of gold spells, and you need to make sure you're ready for that. So you do need to have some answers. I don't know if you need the sweepers. You could maybe just rely on your cheaper, more efficient answers, like cast down an Oath of Kaya, and it looks like that's what Sjow is kind of leaning towards here.
Before we get back into the game, I want to mention, for the Magic fans out there in our audience, Core Set 2020, it's Magic at its core. It's coming to Arena on July 2nd. And pre-releases on July 5th. You can visit magic.wizards.com/core2020 for more information. Did you work on that?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So any of the cards I don't like, I can just blame you?
You can do that. I've had plenty of people already do that.
I think I've
But you know what?
done
It's a
that
team
before.
effort. It's a team effort. Team play design.
Unless I love the card.
Right.
Then it was your idea.
Oh, then it was only my idea.
That's
yes,
right.
Exactly.
That's right. All right. Game
You know
number
how it
2.
works.
I do. I got it all figured out. We just need to train all of our other friends to get on board with this plan. Let's take a look here. We've got, well, double Godless Shrine opener here for Sjow.
Yeah, needs a blue source very badly.
Yeah, but otherwise it looks okay. Duress
Okay,
off
that
the
helps.
top. What can he take away? Despark, Veto, and an Erasure. Suppose he takes away Erasure. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Ugin off the top of the library for Kai, so a powerful option, and no blue mana just yet
He
here
has one
for
more turn
Sjow.
before he feels bad.
Right.
It's that one more turn.
Yeah.
He hasn't missed a land drop yet, but he really needs a blue source next turn. He can fire it off that Thought Erasure, get that going, smooth out his draws, make sure he tries to hit land number 4.
Okay, Sjow. There we go, baby. Hallowed Fountain off the top of the library, and he is right in business. He is facing down Narset Parter of Veils, though, so being on the draw here, of course, disadvantageous now for Sjow. But that blue mana off the top of the library will be a relief for him.
I mean, that was a huge draw from Kai, right? Just drawing Narset to play turn 3 on curve.
Now all of a sudden, yeah. So now look at this. Sjow says, I'm going to have to stem the bleeding here and prevent you from getting that second spell off of Narset, and he just fires off the Elder Spell right here on turn number 3. Passes the turn back. No play yet from
another
Kai.
land.
Boy, I got to tell you, that's got to feel good.
Absolutely. And Kai is going to try to protect that Teferi, so he's going to use that Dovin's Veto here on the Thought Erasure.
And then he's going to get re-erased.
He's going to get re-erased and definitely taking Teferi, but he still has to find an answer to that Ugin that he's now going to find out about in Kai's hand.
And Kai nodded his head like, yeah, all right, you got both of them.
Yeah, I mean, back-to-back blue sources were just
That
the
was
perfect cards for him. And now he has another land on top for Teferi on turn 5.
Ooh, but look at this. Elite Guard Mage off the top of the library for Kai. And that's going to get him a card and a threat. You know, this is the type of card you can use to pressure Planeswalkers.
And I like Basilica Bellhunt here over Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, because Sjow does know about Despark in Kai's hand.
I wonder if Kai's going to get rid of it. What is he? He's one land away from being able to cast Ugin.
Right. He's certainly going to keep Ugin in hand. The question is, does he want to go with the Elder Spell or Despark? Despark gives you a little more flexibility because you can kill that Basilica Bellhunt, but the Elder Spell, of course, gives you that kind of big dream potential of taking out multiple Planeswalkers.
Right. I guess Kai figures, well, there's no Planeswalkers right now, so I'm probably going to 1-for-1 with it anyway. And there it is, land off the top of the library, and Ugin is going to hit. Ugin's a problem.
Absolutely.
Ugin is a big problem, taking out a threat on the other side. Now that's guaranteed value for Kai, so even if Ugin gets sent packing here from Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, Kai will have extracted his value.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, even if Sjow chooses to play Teferi to bounce the Ugin and put it on top of Kai's deck, Kai still has that Elite Guard Mage to just cleanly finish off Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
Yeah, great point. That Guard Mage hanging around is actually a real thorn in the side here for Sjow, trying to keep Planeswalkers on the battlefield.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, there's also the consideration of playing Teferi plus, use Cast Down to finish the Guard Mage, but then you know your Teferi's going to die to Despark, but it does give you a few more draw steps to find an answer to Ugin, like a permanent answer. So curious to see what Sjow going to go with here, because if he tucks the Ugin, you know, it's going to come back in 3 turns.
Right. And with currently no answer for it, it could be problematic for him. So he does, in fact, play Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. The question is, what now? I kind of like your line there, Paul. I mean, it is giving up on our boy Teferi, but it's getting a lot for it.
Right.
Well, he's just going to say, you know what? I'm just not going to deal with this
I'll find
right
an answer
now.
for it later. I'll deal with this later.
Yeah. Ooh, Teferi Time Raveler off the top of the library for Kai as well. That gives him a proactive play that he can make this turn while keeping Despark available.
Yeah, and that just gets him 1 turn closer to finding that Ugin.
But this is really the beating here, right? The fact that this guard mage just gets to snipe Teferi, you know, for free basically, and let Kai keep cards like Despark in hand while casting Teferi, and not have to worry about anything on the other side of the battlefield currently. And it is going to be tick-tock until that Ugin comes back down. Because Ugin's top of the library again, thanks to that card draw.
Yeah, and Kai just drawing all the answers here. He's got Teferi in hand, and we know about that Ugin on top. So he's got all the gas, all the action.
Now, a duress off the top of the library for Sjow will let him take out Despark or Teferi if you'd like. Ooh, well.
He might just run out the search now at this point.
Might have just found a better option.
Right. Although Ugin is coming into play next turn, so Kai can just play the Ugin and kill Search for Azcanta.
That's right.
But yeah, Kai just has all these permanents that not only generate card advantage, but also just answer all the threats that you can have as well.
We talked about wars of attrition. Observe.
Exactly. And this is kind of some of the upside, by the way, for Kai's side this time around after sideboard, where now you take a look at Sjow's hand and he's got, you know, cast down and some removal, but Kai just has all action because he knows that Sjow just has no creatures in his sideboard, so he can basically sideboard perfectly. Whereas for Sjow, it's not always clear.
Sjow has to react to Kai.
Right.
And Kai gives a nod of approval for Search for Azcanta, but we know that he's drawing Ugin, the Ineffable, here. He's going to cast Ugin. And is he just forced to kill the Search here? I mean, that is the window to get it done.
Yeah, that does leave you vulnerable to Oath of Kaya or Elder Spell.
Yep.
But, I mean, Elder Spell is going to get you anyways. But it does leave you vulnerable to Oath of Kaya. But we saw what Search for Azcanta was capable of doing in the previous game, so you cannot let that flip.
Yeah, I mean, it just outright won Sjow the game. So down it goes. And Ugin has now taken down 2 different things, and Sjow is left with pretty anemic hand here. He just has cast down and a Teferi that isn't able to minus currently. So things looking very good for the German Juggernaut on the top part of your screen there. He's going to cast Elite Guard Mage, but of course that gets him a card regardless. Ooh, and Arguel's Bloodfast hits the battlefield now too. And a land off the top of the library. This one has well and truly slipped away from Sjow.
Yeah, very nice piece of technology here from Kai with Bloodfast in the sideboard. You know, I talked about earlier, it's hard to deal with cheap enchantments, right? Because Despark is kind of your catch-all answer to bigger threats, but anything that costs 3 or less is kind of tough for the Esper deck, and if it's an enchantment, it's going to be really hard to deal with, and Arguel's Bloodfast is going to draw Kai so many cards in this matchup.
Right, he can pay 1 and a black and pay 2 life to draw a card. And as we know, in matchups like this, Sjow just doesn't have the ability to pressure Kai's life total in any meaningful way, and we see that here. Kai's at 24. Yeah. I mean, he could draw 12 cards.
I mean, it's no Bolas' Citadel, but I mean, you know, gets the job done, I guess.
It's Bolas' Citadel for 2.
Right.
Well, that might be a bit of a simplification. But
oh, and look at this, Dovin's Veto as well, in case an Elder Spell comes off the top here.
Yeah, that is that's the backup plan there. So insurance policy in place now on this game for Kai Budde. He is in a beautiful position facing down a Basilica Bellhunt. He's going to activate Arguel's Bloodfast just to make sure he has something to discard that he's not super bummed about. And it looks like Duress is the victim here. But again, now we're going to see a different stage of the game where Ugin runs away with it.
Absolutely.
You know, look at the value that Ugin's already putting on the battlefield as far as on-board creatures. I mean, there's 2 2/2s and another one on the way. And then on top of it, the Argywell's Bloodfast. This is, you might want to shield your children's eyes from this one because this is going to get ugly before
This is
done.
value overload. I mean, Kai just has all the cards in his hand. And if Sjow finds an answer to this army of 2/2 creatures, guess what? That's just more cards for Kai.
I mean, you're a father of 2. You wouldn't let your kids watch this, would you?
No, I don't think so.
This is
This is brutal. This is a bloodbath.
Yeah. Maybe when they're like 10.
Yeah, I was thinking 7, but 10's probably more appropriate.
Yeah. I'll trust your opinion on it. All right, and in come Ugin's little friends here to clean up the board, and now we have Sjow on nothing. 0 relative permanence on the board or in hand.
And we're going to see a draw step the rest here, too.
Oh, well, that's going to work out beautifully for Kai. Everything coming up Kai Budde here, and he's showing us why he is considered one of our game's best players of all time. He's kind of the Babe Ruth of Magic in a way, right?
Yes. Yes, he is. And Sjow still fighting the good fight here, trying to maybe get some extra information as to how Kai sideboarded.
Of course. Yeah, Sjow knows that he's dead, but like you said, there's sometimes, you know, Kai's not really the type of player to give you information that he didn't need to give you, but perhaps you learn a little something.
Yeah, you could always make an adjustment. If for example, Sjow drew a removal spell on one of the creatures and then finds a card that surprised him, you know, he might sideboard slightly differently going into game 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I think his best draw is like a Wrath, just because he gets to see 4 cards. Like, he won't win the game, but...
And Kai's also mindful of this, of course. So he's going to try to give away as little information as possible because he's so far ahead.
Yeah, another draw that Sjow wouldn't hate here is a hand disruption spell so that he can just take a look at what he's got. Like, it's weird how your priorities change throughout the course of a game. You know, once you've kind of accepted the fact that, okay, this one's done.
Right.
You know, what are the things that I actually care about?
Oh, man.
There's a little info, a little instant speed.
Okay, that's enough.
Little instant speed. All right. So Sjow says, okay, I get it. You're playing Command the Dread Horde as well. Let's get back to the sideboard plan here as we line up for a game number 3 between Kai Budde and Sjow. Welcome to coverage, by the way. If you're just tuning in, we're super happy to have you along. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon, bringing you coverage here of Mythic Championship 3.
Yeah, curious to see if he's maybe going to consider bringing in an extra copy of D-Spark. He not only saw the 4 copies of Teferi, but there was also Ugin and also the Elite Guard Mage. I know it's not great to use it, but it's just an additional target that you can think about.
Yeah, you're free rolling that part.
Yeah. Of course, the Elder Spell also just does a fantastic job there. All right, the second one does come in. Did he take out? Cast down. And, you know, that also makes sense. When you're on the play, not on the draw, when you're on the play, you can... Hero Precinct 1 is not as scary because you can kind of play your game plan and kind of put your opponent on the back foot. So the fear of kind of just getting... kind of like having Hero Snowball is just not there anymore because you can have just more ways to dig for answers.
It's kind of interesting. He is a little soft to Hero here, right? Like, he's got the Oath of Kaya's and the cast downs, but he has cut all of his Wraths. You know, a little hand disruption, a little Hero, and it can run away with it.
But here's another thing, though. Even Teferi, when you're on the play now, if your opponent plays turn 2 Hero, you can follow that up with turn 3 Teferi and bounce it. If you're on the draw, you don't have that option and then they have the option of playing an additional gold card, which then gives them that extra token.
Right, so then if they bounce it, you have your Teferi on 1 and they have a token.
Exactly.
It works for me. All right, what are we looking at here for Kai?
A Snap Keep, I think.
4 lands, Duress, Veto, and a Narset. And on the bottom part, 3 lander with a Thought Erasure, Elder Spell, Narset, and a Search. Looks like good hands from here, so let's get underway.
And we're going to see these hand disruption spells tear apart each of the players' hands here. I think Kai would be very interested in getting that Search for Eskenta off the battlefield. Or out of Sjow's hand.
Yeah, I think he just never wants to see that card in any zone
exactly.
outside of the graveyard. Second copy of Elder Spell, not so much here off the top of the library, but he'll have to live with it. Might come in handy later. Elite Guard Mage, the draw step here for Kai.
Yeah, Sjow really wanted to find a black source there to be able to play that Thought Erasure on 2 because now Kai has the ability to run out Thought Erasure and just see if the coast is clear for his Narset on 3.
Oh, sure. And it is actually an interesting choice here for Kai as well, because, you know, Narset seems to be the most threatening card, but if Sjow does find a black source, then Thought Erasure.
Yeah, I think you just take that risk. I think you take the risk. You just take their opposing Narset, hope that Sjow doesn't draw black source this turn, and then you're looking really good because you get to slam Narset on turn 3.
Yep, here's a big draw. Oh, not only was it not a black source, it was another black card, a second Thought Erasure. And this is the part that you just described, Paul. Windmill slam, Narset, Parter of Veils on the battlefield, and that is a big step in the right direction for Kai Budde.
You can see Sjow nodding his head. He's just like, yeah, I know what happens here. I've played 10,000 matches in Arena.
That's right. And of course, he does not find that second black mana source. And you know, based on the look on Jeffrey's face there, you can see he's already starting to feel a little resigned to this game. This one might just not come together for him. He probably only has a turn or two to find black mana, and even then it might be too late.
Now we're going to see Hero into Thought Erasure.
Wow.
So just he's basically just got it all now. Oh, it looks like
he's going to hold on, and another black card off the top of the library. It even looks good, right? Oath of Kai against the lone hero. You're like, we did it. Right. But Kai, well, not only can Jeffrey not cast it, Kai also has Dovin's Veto. It's just really not coming together for Sjow here. And you know, it's all about the mana this game.
Right, absolutely. And now we're going to see Thought Erasure with Dovin's Veto backup. Kai continuing to put on pressure. Sjow, even if he draws black sources, is going to be in a lot of trouble here.
So Oath of Kai is going to hit the bin. And there's Isolated Chapel. Where have you been all my life, Isolated Chapel? Is it too late? It certainly looks like it from here.
Right. And Kai probably just going to go ahead and use the Veto here. Don't want to give Sjow the choice and also the ability to surveil, and you get that 1/1 here in the process as well. Let's see if Kai draws land number 5 for Teferi.
Bingo.
Easy.
That's exactly what he did.
Easy game. All right, well, Sjow really needs black source number 2 here to get both of those planeswalkers off the battlefield.
This is a critical step for him to mount any type of comeback. That is merely step 1, though, as he's already facing down 5 power. And there it is, swamp off the top of the library. He's at 14 life. Wow.
Interesting.
Well, looks like he's going to take his time here and go for Thought Erasure instead. Wow, I thought he would just windmill the Elder Spell.
Yeah. Maybe he's trying to get Kai to play one more Planeswalker and try to get the ultimate Elder Spell going. But keep in mind, Teferi's just going to draw an additional card there as well. I mean, to be fair, Sjow is extremely behind right now.
Yes, yes. I understand the logic, right? There is a line of thought that says that I have to go for the absolute maximum value, even if it's unrealistic at this point, or I'll lose anyway. But boy, letting Kai have that card is a very steep cost to pay here when you can just snap off a 2-for-1.
Also, he's extremely choked on black mana. He found black source number 2.
Because he needs a Wrath. He took out the Kai's Wrath. What can he even draw?
I mean, a cast down would be a step in the right direction, but for example, if he fired off Elder Spell this turn, next turn, if he did draw cast down, he could play Thought Erasure into cast down. Yeah,
it's also, we see the Basilica Bellhunt here on top of the library, which he kept there off of the Thought Erasure, and, that also does it, right? At least stabilizes him for a little while, but now he can't do both, right? Now it's maybe Bellhunt next turn and then Elder Spell, but boy, Teferi is not sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah, and Kai is also, by the way, very close to just embleming.
That's right.
Teferi Hero of Dominaria, as he can choose to play Elder Spell here on his own Narset and put additional loyalty counters on Teferi Hero of Dominaria. Wow, just...
Well, Sjow gets to say, I did get 3 of them before I left, but he's just going to go ahead and scoop them up. I think that the writing's on the wall here. Sjow says, okay, I can Elder Spell to kill your Planeswalkers, but then I'll die to the board.
Right.
So it just doesn't pan out in any reasonable way here for Sjow, and he's kind of toying with the concede button there. He knows, of course, his draw step is the Basilica Bellhunt because he set that up last turn. That kind of feels good, though, right?
Just you got your 3 Planeswalkers. Hey, I got this.
Yeah, but Kai's like, does that actually matter? And the answer is no.
Yeah, Kai's just going to continue to put pressure here. He can run out Elite Guard Mage or just Narset if he's concerned about a top-decked Kaya's Wrath, potentially.
Yeah, we of course have information that Kai does not.
Right.
But those are the type of things that Kai needs to consider. And there's an Oath of Kaya, which is actually, you know, on his short list. You know, some combination of Bell Hunt and Oath of Kaya is a way that he could scrap back, but unfortunately the mana situation prevents it.
Yep.
And Sjow is going to have to pack him in. That is Kai Budde, the Hall of Famer, finishing things off in a tough 3-game match against Sjow. You know, like we mentioned before, it's a fight of attrition, right? It's just about resource management and how much ahead you can get at certain times. And Kai had that thanks to the mana stumbles there in game 3.
Yeah, and you got to see there, at least in this matchup, we're going to see it a lot this weekend, by the way, but just the head-to-head, and where I do think the control deck is kind of positioned well for the game 1 matchup, but after sideboard, I think it might just turn to the other side because you always have that looming threat of Hero Precinct 1 just kind of running away with the game.
Yeah, seriously. By the way, players have a quick chat after the game. That's got to be cool for Jeffrey. I mean, again, Kai, you know, he's a legend. I mean, there's just no other way to put it, especially for stat geeks like people like us, Paul, when we take a look at the history of the game and you look back and like, well, who's the best ever? And who did the best back in the day, you know, like before I was following competitive Magic. And it just stands out. That 7 wins, you're just like, wait, that has to be top 8s, right? It's like, no, he actually won 7 times, you know, like the ultimate closer. Like you put that guy in a Sunday seat and he's just going to win the tournament.
Yeah, it's weird too because, you know, whenever you talk to a lot of the top players, you know, so if you talk to, for example, Ben Stark, he's like, well, it's just mathematically, you know, you just win 60% of your matches. So well, somebody's just luckier than the other person. But this guy's got 7 wins. I mean, that's just incredible.
Wins.
He's a winner.
Wins. Like, if you have 7 top 8s at the Mythic Championship or formerly Pro Tour level, you know, you're in the Hall of Fame and you're considered one of the greats.
Right.
Wins? Like,
yeah.
Come on.
But, you know, keep in mind, though, Kai is mostly retired.
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
true.
you know, he is not the person who's putting in 40, 50, 60 hours a week of Magic that he did in the past. So, you know, I would say it's weird because he's one of the all-time greats, but I think coming in, it is fair to say that he is one of the underdogs coming in.
Yeah, and I actually did say that, but I did it more to tease him anyway. All right, that's going to do it for the desk here for the moment. We're going to send it over to Maria.
Thanks so much, Marshall. Yeah, Kai Budde, an underdog only in your eyes, Marshall. Only you would do that. All right, well, that's a win in the room, but what about some of the losses? Keep in mind, when you take your 4th loss in this tournament, that is it, at least at this point. 6 wins, you can kick back and relax. You're on to day 2. But let's take a look at our players who were in danger coming into this round. There you see it right in front of you. These players have to win to keep the dream alive. And some shockers on this list. Grzegorz Kowalski, 0-3. Remember, he was runner-up at the World Championships last year right in this very city. So really struggling here in this tournament. Mike Sigris down there on the bottom of the list. Also a shocker, 0-3. He's a member of the MPL Former Player of the Year, and they're right there in the middle. Andre Strosky sitting at 0-3. Remember, he was top 4 at the Mythic Invitational, and I've got actually an update to let you know. Andre Strosky actually lost his match, so he is 0-4, and he is out of the tournament. So some real shockers here developing as we continue our way through day 1. But now on to some better news. Becca is with Kai.
Thanks, Maria. That's right. I am in the presence of greatness. Kai, it is such a pleasure to meet you and speak with you. Can you talk us through what happened in this match you just played?
Well, I mean, I played an Esper Mirror, but our decks are pretty different. Sjow is playing a very anti-creature heavy build, and I have Hero of Precinct 1, which means that his creature removal spells are very good game 1. And then, so I'm playing Brian Braun Duin's list, basically, and it's set up to be good against green decks. We didn't expect this much Esper Control, and I think game 1 is a total nightmare for me, and that's exactly how it played out. Like, his creature removal is great, my creature removal is dead, it just doesn't do anything in these games, and then I can't really deal with this 2-search for Escanta. After sideboard, that changes a little bit, because I can board out all my creature removal, I can bring in a lot of really good cards, but Sjow has to keep in some of the creature removal, because otherwise he can lose to my Hero of Precinct 1. And that means that, like, we get into a situation where if he draws removal and I don't draw hero, that's good for me. If I draw hero and he doesn't draw removal, that's good for me. The other games, we each draw some pieces and it evens out. But like that's a lot more positive scenarios for me. And then he also got pretty unlucky and didn't draw black mana in the 3rd game. So I thought I was going to lose the 1st game. It's exactly what happened. And then I just got pretty lucky in the 2 sideboard games.
So in bringing the Esper Hero deck, you sort of anticipated less of the Esper Control that we're seeing, but now that you have the sideboard plan, are you feeling more confident, or are you a little worried going forward?
I think a lot of the Esper Control decks aren't doing that well, so that's good for me, and that's good for Brian and Brett, who are already seeded into the top 16 and playing the same deck. But there's still 40% Esper, and like more than half of them are Esper Control, so that's not great for me, and I still have to win 3 matches from here, so we will see how it goes. But the metagame didn't work out as we were hoping for it. But
Well, it seems to not be getting in your way so far. Of course, you are a legend. What is it that brought you back to the game for this tournament?
Well, I got one of the discretionary invites. I wasn't qualified for this. Usually I'm in the Hall of Fame, so I'm invited to the Mythic Championships, but the Arena Mythic Championships only have 68 players, and that's a new thing, and they don't give us old people invites to these. But I got one of the 16 invites, and yeah, I was pretty excited. I was playing the Tabletop Mythic Championship before in London, and I'm going to play the one in Barcelona. And I thought I was going to skip this until I got the invite, but yeah, I mean, I'm playing quite a bit of Magic in the recent days, so I was pretty happy.
Well, it's exciting to see a champion like yourself back, and I hope to speak to you many more times. Thanks so much for watching at home.
Abby, but down to 2 life. That will do it.
I am Andrea Mengucci, I'm from Italy. I am 25 and I'm a professional Magic player. Since I was a kid, I started playing Magic at the beach. It's basically been the only game that I've been playing. I was really good at sports, so I was just more like playing on the computer, but always Magic.
You just became the first champion of the Mythic Invitational!
So I finished my study last year and I was like, okay, great. 2010 will be my professional year. I'll be playing professionally Magic.
Hi, I'm Martin Yuza. I'm from the Czech Republic, and I play a lot of Magic. In high school, my friends were playing this interesting game, and I just, I was interested, so I asked them what it is, and it's this, cool strategy game, and before I knew it, I was buying packs and just had a huge collection and everything, and as the time went by, I started playing tournaments and went to PTQs and whatever, and now we're here. When I got the phone call, it was an exciting moment. It was just there's a lot of things running through your head, and you're like, oh, we finally made it. This is great. This is all we ever wanted.
My name is Luis Salvato. I'm from Argentina. The first time my brother bought some Portal decks. We learned how to play, and then 10 years ago, I'm playing professional level.
Facts and says that's enough to kill me. Luis Salvato is your...
My family and my friends support me a lot. When I found out that I was in the MPL, that I was selected for that, everyone, mostly me, was super excited about this.
My name is William Jensen, nicknamed Huey, and I'm here today because I'm a member of the Magic Pro League. I first started playing Magic in 1997. Didn't take me very long to become competitive and start going to tournaments. I was going to weekly tournaments on a couple weeknights a week and even Saturdays, and I really liked the atmosphere, and I definitely found somewhere where I felt like I belonged.
And welcome back to Las Vegas, Nevada. We're here for coverage of Mythic Championship 3. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. We're in round number 4, and we've got more Magic for you lined up here. We've got Gregory Orange, and Greg, winner of PT 25th anniversary, along with his teammates.
Right, yeah, all 3 of them got the invite to this event, and Greg is making the most out of it here right now, currently at 3-0.
Yeah, his opponent is Matias Leveratto, and both of these players are coming in at 3-0, so they're in that perfect spot, and they're looking to claim that 4-0, which is, of course, a great start. Greg, by the way, very on brand as the citrus assassin. He dyed his hair orange. Gotta love that. We are coming in game number 2, and this is with Greg up a game.
Yes, and that is huge for Greg because I think the matchup gets much better for the Esper Control deck once you can board out all of your removal spells and your sweepers, or a large portion of them, and turn them into more hand disruption and more counter magic. This matchup gets much better. So the fact that Greg was able to win game number 1 is huge.
Big win there for Greg Orange. Now all he has to do is win one of the next 2 games to secure that 4-0. Though, as we see, Search for Escanta already on the battlefield here for Matias Leveratto. He is one of 3 players playing sort of the traditional build of Simic Nexus, including Wilderness Reclamation. We do have another Simic Nexus player with Simon Gertzen, though he's got a bit of a different take on the deck.
Yeah, and Greg really needs to find some lands here to kind of get the action going. And Leveratto here.
That's a problem.
Yeah, he's got Tamiyo, and he's also got Blast Zone in place, so that will be able to deal with the 3-mana Planeswalkers that Greg has. You know, he's got that Teferi in play, he's got that Narset. We talked about how important those cards are in this specific matchup.
Matias is going to go for the guaranteed value. The 1 card left in his graveyard was Narset, Parter of Veils, put there from Thought Erasure, and Tamiyo's going to grab that Planeswalker back right away. That way, even if Tamiyo dies, well, he got his Val.
Right. And Greg does have the Elder Spell here for the Tamiyo. However, we see in Leveratto's hand, he's got a 2nd copy of Tamiyo. Actually,
and I lied
2nd
too.
and 3rd copy of
So
Tamiyo.
what actually happened there was he actually changed his mind. That's why it kind of paused for a second. And he named Biogenic Ooze, but he bricked.
Oh, and I like this. Greg actually keeping up Dovin's Veto and not using Thought Erasure at instant speed. And this gives him some flexibility. If Leveratto doesn't play a threat this turn, then he can go end of turn Thought Erasure you with this Teferi. On the flip side, he can also just choose to counter something with Dovin's Veto. And given that Leveratto has 5 cards in hand, he's very likely to try to run something out this turn.
Smart stuff here from the Citrus Assassin Greg Orange.
A lot of different options here for Leveratto. Do you return something? Do you want, oh, looks like he was going to miss a land drop. So yeah, getting a land back makes sense.
But it looks like Greg is going to go ahead and let the Search for Escanta hit.
Oh, of course, Thought Erasure doesn't even do anything because
of
I always
Tamiyo.
The static effects will always get people.
Yeah,
Tamiyo specifically, it prevents
right.
discard effects. So Duress and Thought Erasure will not actually work if Tamiyo is on the battlefield.
No, but your line of thinking was correct. It was just the Elder Spell that was his backup plan.
Right,
so it was Dovin's Veto and Elder Spell, and he uses the Elder Spell here on end step. Now that clears the way for the Thought Erasure. Yeah, Tamiyo doesn't let you discard cards or sacrifice stuff. That static ability doesn't come up super often, but against these Esper decks, it's very relevant.
Yeah, but Greg needs to fight through these Tamiyos one way or another. So he just, even though there's a redundant copy, still choosing to take the Tamiyo. And I like the sequencing there as well. This is a bit unfortunate here for Greg, but he ran out Thought Erasure first, Surveil, to make sure he can try to find a land before choosing to minus Teferi Time Raveler to maximize the chance of drawing land number 4.
Yeah, he did maximize, though. It wasn't quite enough. He found a D-Spark, so he did find an answer for Tamiyo Collector of Tales going forward, or Wilderness Reclamation. But yeah, missing a land here could really punish him. He is now way behind on lands, double the land count now for Matias Leveratto on the other side of the battlefield. And there's a Duress. Nice.
And, you know, we've talked about how Teferi Time Raveler is really good at shutting down Wilderness Reclamation because you can't float mana and you can't play Nexus of Fates and Chemister's Insight and what have you. However, it still synergizes very, very well with Search for Escanta. So, you know, if Leveratto is able to flip the Search for Escanta next turn, he's just going to be so far ahead on cards. So I think Greg does need to find a way to deal with this Wilderness Reclamation as quickly as possible.
So he's going to D-Spark it right now, and he can still keep up Duress here to take out, well, in his view, a Growth Spiral and an unknown card, but boy, Tamiyo is a nice target for
I
that.
think he knows about, I thought he knew about the Tamiyo because I thought he used the Hand Disruption spell before. But yes, it will pay off here. He will be able to use that Duress on Tamiyo. However, still needs to find an answer for Search for Escanta.
Yeah, it's a big problem. Boy, we have seen this card dominate these Esper decks as well. It's just they can interact with it, but they have so few ways to actually just get rid of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting kind of how the metagame has evolved, where in the beginning everybody was playing 3 to 4 copies, and then people were playing Mortify all over the place, so you saw less copies. You saw some people play 1 tops. But now we're kind of back into a world where Narset's all over the place. You can't reliably rely on Chemist's Insight to draw you a bunch of cards, and because people are not playing Mortifies anymore, all of a sudden it's extremely well positioned again.
Escanta has transformed, by the way, for Leveratto. That was a draw step duress to take away Tameo for Greg Orange. And finally, a land off the top of the battlefield, excuse me, the library here will give him land number 4.
Yeah, but Leveratto's just so far ahead on mana here at this
Really
point.
is. He's also got a Chemist's Insight waiting to be jump-started.
Probably just pitching a Growth Spiral here.
Yeah, effectively cycling at that point. Ooh, Wilderness Reclamation off the top of the library here from Matias Leveratto.
That was a huge draw.
Boom,
because
baby.
now he can play the Reclamation, activate Escanta, and then activate it again.
How do you keep up with that kind of card selection plus card advantage? It's just a deadly combo.
Yeah, it is really, really difficult. Greg needs a Planeswalker of his own. He would need, you know, to draw land number 5, resolve that Teferi Hero of Dominaria, and just to try to keep up with the card advantage gained by the interaction between Reclamation and Escanta the Sunken Rune. Oh, and look at this. Using Blast Zone here to get Teferi Time Raveler off the battlefield, but Greg was able to find a second copy.
Right away.
Yeah.
No delay.
Easy.
Leveratto's like, come on, man.
Let's slow this down.
Come on, man. How many of those are you running? Turns out it's all of them.
And Orange really wanted to find a land there so that he could cast Dovin's Veto. If he found a land to cast Veto, he would have been able to basically counter Wilderness Reclamation. And now at this point, Leveratto with an additional Chemist's Insight negate with the Reclamation, he's just going to be up way too many cards. It's going to be extremely difficult for Greg to kind of claw back from this.
Things looking very good for the Argentinian here. He's played in 6 Grand Prix tournaments. He top-8'd nationals back in 2010 in Argentina.
And that is an unkicked blink of an eye so that he could run out Wilderness Reclamation. He's now going to float mana, untap, activate Escanta the Sunken Ruin, and still have the ability to negate Teferi Time Raveler. Oh, it looks like he's going for Chemist's Insight here instead.
You know, it's funny. Wilderness Reclamation has fallen out of favor, you know, in many ways, but it is still kind of busted when it does its thing.
Oh,
isn't
yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Oh, man. And now we're going to have a counter fight here, but Dovin's Veto tends to win those fairly consistently. And that means that Teferi Time Raveler does get to resolve and once again send that Wilderness Reclamation back to hand. And all of a sudden it's beat down for Greg Orange here. He's taking this Basilica Belhan and he's going to ride it all the way to victory, or probably not.
Yeah, but now with land number 8, Leveratto has the ability to run out both the Reclamations or just try to win the game with Biogenic Ooze. Really curious to see what he chooses to do here. I mean, it is very tempting to run out both the Reclamations because then you get all those activations. You get 2 extra activations from Escanta the Sunken Ruin.
Yes.
There's just so much to do. It looks like that's what he's going for
That's
instead.
exactly what you should do, because if he gets, you know, as he untaps here, he's going to get activations now. And then going forward, he can either make a bunch of tokens with Biogenic Ooze or draw extra cards or some combination of the both, because this is just an absolutely ridiculous amount of mana that he's generating now. I mean, look at Greg. He's jealous. He's like, I'm the control deck. I'm supposed to have more lands. I'm supposed to be doing all this sweet late game stuff. And Leveratto's just like, yeah, well, hold my beverage, because he is going to go to town here.
And there we have it. We have a Teferi here, which somewhat allows Greg to keep up with all the cards, but I mean, Leveratto just has so many additional resources here.
Yeah, you know, and what it really comes down to at this point as well is just the lands, right? I mean, we still seen Greg finally just hit land number 5, and that is just way too late.
Yeah, I mean, just one of the most important things in kind of these control matchups is hitting your land drops. And falling behind on mana is you know, one of the quickest ways that you can kind of just immediately lose games. And now with double Wilderness Reclamation in play here for Leveratto, he's drawn a Mobilized District. He's got, what, 8 lands? He has access to 24 mana this turn. 24 mana.
Good, clean fun here for Leveratto.
This one's certainly not resolving. And now we're going to see Leveratto probably just tap out to play some stuff, you know, because he can't cast any instants, so he can probably just fire off Opt and Callous Dismissal here if he wants. And then he's going to get 2 triggers from Wilderness Reclamation, which is going to give him access to 16 mana. He's going to, he can tap 4 lands to get an activation from Azcanta the Sunken Ruin. So he will still be completely he won't be completely untapped. He'll have 1 land left. The Azcanta Sunken Ruin will be tapped.
Taking a look, by the way, since we got a minute here.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, you know, this one looks like it's about in the books. Matias, he wrote some kind of funny stories for us in his bio. He said on a Sunday I broke my mouse. You know, he had like a PC mouse.
Yeah.
Broke it. But he really wanted to keep playing, so he went over to his neighbor's house and asked if she had a spare mouse. And she said yes. So he said great. She said she'd bring it right by. She showed up and brought him a lemon mousse, misunderstanding that he needed a mouse for his computer. He did note it was tasty.
That's a friendly neighbor, though.
I agree. She made him a dessert. You know, I mean, he didn't get to play Magic anymore that day, but I don't think he could really complain at that point.
Right. That didn't pan out. All right, so Leveratto now kind of putting the finishing touches, it looks like, to this game. Very ahead here. Up so many cards, has access to all the mana in the world. He can just start casting Nexus of Fates on his turn. Oh, he got the Teferi Time Raveler off the battlefield here too, so he can just do anything that he wants. And at this point, the game is basically over.
Yeah, I wonder how much mana he has available each turn now with Nissa on the battlefield.
You know what? I'm not gonna do that, man.
I'll let you save yourself. We got a long weekend ahead of us.
See, the one nice thing about this you know, with kind of the adaptations that the Simic Nexus decks have made is now they have Nissa. They can actually kill people, right?
Yes, yes.
I have seen versions where it's just Callous Dismissal, and you just bounce all the permanents until you have, you know, a 10/10 Callous a zombie token in play.
An army. Yeah.
So I appreciate the fact that Leveratto can actually just end the game.
And the game does end very quickly with Nissa, you know, especially when you start taking your extra turns, because that damage adds up so quickly, and in fact, quickly enough to force a concession here from Greg Orange. So that is Matias Leveratto evening things up. Again, these players coming in undefeated into the round and looking to stay that way. We're going to get one game to decide it. Who's it going to be? It'll be Greg Orange on the play, so he's got that going for him.
Yeah. Curious to see if he makes any big changes.
Creature-based stuff here out of the board. You see Cast Down, Moment of Craving, Cry of the Carnarium, Enter the God Eternals, Hostage Taker. A lot of ways to deal with creature-heavy decks.
Yeah, the Esper deck really just wants to play against creature
just
decks.
Skewed against that, isn't
right,
it?
It's got all the sweepers, all the removal effects that gains you life. And, you know, we haven't seen it yet in the feature match area, but you know, only 40% of the field is Esper, and there are only a handful of the Simic Nexus decks. So, you know, we should be seeing some of these Esper versus creature matchups coming up soon.
Yeah, of course, Greg had sideboarded out all of those cards being dead in the matchup, but still, you can see the density of creature answers that these decks bring to the table. Okay, game number 3. Let's get into it here. Simic Nexus or Esper Control? Ooh. It's a decent one.
Wow, that is...
Hey, there's his Hero of Precinct 1.
Yeah, that's a very, very pretty hand. And if...
Wow, that's a nice hand.
Yeah, just going turn 2 Hero into...
Yeah. Wow.
Thought Erasures.
Yes,
yeah.
double Thought
Erasure.
Erasure.
That's the way to get it done.
Yeah, and it's interesting here too because there's a lot of times where you're faced with this interesting decision on needing the Thought Erasure first to clear the way for your precinct.
Right.
Against blue-green, you're like, here he is.
Yeah, no removal, no removal. This is safe,
Yeah.
and this is how I'm going to win.
Wow, this is a beautiful hand here for Greg Orange. Seriously, because Thought Erasure can set you so far back on your game plan.
Right.
And all you need is time when Hero's smacking you in the face with his little buddies every turn.
Probably taking a Tameo here, maybe. Or Paradise Druid if he just wants to end the game and slow
Maximum
down Leveratto.
aggression,
Look at
love
that.
it.
Okay.
He leaves Dovin's Veto on the top of the library, and with his land configuration, next turn, he can go Thought Erasure,
Yeah.
leave up Veto.
Not interested in taking this game long. He can close the door very quickly here. I mean, Hero Precinct 1 generating these tokens, Thought Erasure with D-Spark and Dovin's Veto back up next turn.
Yeah, now he's forced basically to take Tameo, ditch that Oath of Kaya. He wants nothing to do with it. Slam in there for 3, leave up Dovin's Veto. Wow, this is a turn of events here in Greg Orange's direction that looks conclusive.
He needs, and Leveratto probably needs to announce it, but it doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah, I saw Greg say okay.
Yeah. Oh, land number 5 would make this draw the actual perfect draw, but doesn't matter. Multiple D-Sparks to deal with both Tameo or Wilderness Reclamation from Leveratto.
And once again, Greg says, I suppose, and then slams the door on this game. D-Spark taking out Wilderness Reclamation.
Yeah.
And look at the face on Leveratto. He's like, come on, man. What am I supposed to do here?
And this is the upside of playing Hero of Precinct 1 instead of the Esper Control decks that have only the sweepers.
Down to 4, and this is a 1-turn window for Leveratto. Callous Dismissal? No, right?
It can bounce Hero Precinct 1, and Leveratto will go down to 1 life if he blocks one of the tokens. But
I guess he could have just Teferi'd it, but whatever. In they come.
But he wants to keep up D-Spark, maybe just run out Hero Precinct 1, or even Narset. Oh, no. Yeah. He could have run out the Narset, but yeah. This should be it.
But that should be it. There's no way for Leveratto to come back from this. Not a card in his library. They can get rid of 4 creatures at one time, and a rip and draw here for Gregory Orange puts him undefeated. You see Leveratto say, what was I supposed to do here? All he can do is fire off a Nexus of Fate to get another card, and it is Biogenic Ooze, but at 1 life, even that will not save him. That is exactly the type of card that he wants, too. And look at Greg Orange. He's like, wait, did he find something here? What's going on? But no, he did not. It's just Ooze. And a quick check of the creature count will have Greg Orange knowing that he's got this one on lockdown, and Gregory Orange taking full advantage here. He is going to advance to 4-0. The Citrus Assassin strikes again, and that is going to do it once again for round number 4 here from Las Vegas. We're here for Mythic Championship number 3. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have a lot more. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Alexander Hain. I'm from Canada and member of the MPL. When I really got into Magic was college. Both my parents come from an academic background, so for them, success in school was number one. They didn't really understand. And then Saturday night of the Pro Tour, my mom got to meet me and the team at the event and ended up winning, and it was quite something. Since then, she's gone like full-blown fan of Magic.
My name is Carlos Ramon. I'm former 2002 World Champion. I remember when I won my first invite to the Pro Tour, told my father, okay, so this is a professional Magic tournament. My father was like, you take like A grades on the school and then you can go. My family was always supportive since the beginning. Like without them, I wouldn't be able to be here. When I got the call, I heard, okay, so we're gonna sign you a contract. And I told my father, and he was so excited. I remember that my mother picked up the phone and said, oh, congratulations, son, blah, blah, blah. Without them, I couldn't achieve anything when it comes to the game.
My name is Eric Froelich. I'm in the Magic Pro League and the Magic Pro Tour Hall of Fame. It just so happened that my entire 5th grade class really just started getting into Magic. I wanted to go to the local game store. I went with my dad and we bought a nice little starter kit at the time. My dad ended up reading the entire rulebook, teaching me how to play, and I played with my classmates. I ended up finding myself winning and advancing all the way to the top 8 and qualifying for the Pro Tour at 13 years old. And at that point, I was just fully immersed and wanting to go to every major tournament around me. And that's what I did. I was lucky enough to have really supportive parents who found a way to make sure everything I needed to go to, I was there.
I'm John Rolfe from Omaha, Nebraska. I've been playing Magic for about 15 years. I played Pro Tour Ixalan, which I thought was going to be my last Pro Tour, and I ended up top 4ing the whole thing. And so then it gave me this awesome opportunity, and I've always wanted to pursue this. Why not take a chance? And then I just kept winning, and now we're here. So when I got the call to join the MPL, at first I was just shocked. I had to think about it for a really long time, and Magic had been such a big part of my life that I had to at least see where the future goes. I mean, I didn't want to live with any regrets.
Be happy with his opening hand.
My name is Piotr Głogowski. I live in Poland, Poznań. I have been playing Magic since return to Ravnica. Before joining the Magic Pro League, I have been streaming MTGO. I hope that with the advent of the MPL and Magic Arena, I can expand on that. I'm certainly not going to leave the older formats that I love in the dust.
Draw 2, discard 2, and straight into the concession.
Wow.
Reed Duke equal.
My name's Reed Duke. I'm a longtime professional Magic player, and I'm a member of the inaugural Magic Pro League this year. My older brother Ian and I learned to play together, and I've started taking it real seriously once I was around college age, and I've been a pro for about 6 or 7 years.
Declare my attack, says Reed Duke. Autumn says, you got it, and scoops up.
I come from a tremendously supportive family, and my mother and I sort of have this joke that I'll come home and she'll say, how was the tournament? And I'll say, oh, well, I lost in the finals. Or she'll say, well, you're still a winner to me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to coverage of Mythic Championship 3. The players in the room doing a lot of hard work today, battling their hearts out. But the two guys here with me at the desk have been doing no such thing. They are automatically through to day 2 in the top 16 here of our tournament. How do you feel about that? Brad Nelson, Brian Braun doing?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. It's been a very stress-free day. We did sneak behind coverage, and I guess we're doing this interview, but that's about the hardest thing I'll be doing today.
How about you?
I feel horrible about it. Terrible. I really wish I was like 1-4 right now or something.
Yeah. I'm sure you do.
The other players might watch this. Like, you don't want to say that. We have to walk through. Like,
So
I'll just go around.
Both of you guys, members of the MPL, of course, division champions. But let's get to know you just a little bit better. We're going to start with you, Brad. And you have a really cool story about your very first Pro Tour and your very first match ever in that Pro Tour on camera versus Luis Scott Vargas.
I don't think it's that good of a story, but no, it's actually...
That was going to be my line. I was going to say, I don't think it's a cool story.
Yeah.
But.
So in my first... Actually, this is maybe my favorite story in Magic. In my first ever match on the Pro Tour, I played against Luis Scott Vargas in a feature match. I was so nervous to play against him that I, while shuffling my cards, luckily I don't have to do that this weekend, I, cracked a sleeve and split open one of my cards. So now I have a 59-card deck before I even play in the tournament. Brian David Marshall, the limited master, had a copy of the card in his pocket. We traded. So then 10 years later, I asked him, can I get that card back? Because now it's like a sentimental moment. Round 1 of a match, I have this item. And he says, if you top 8 another Pro Tour, or Mythic Championship now. And I was like, I'm not good enough to do that. I don't think I'm going to ever do that again. Luckily, I actually did, and I got the card back from him, and now it's on my mantle.
Wow, awesome story.
I was hoping his answer would be like, I sold it to a vendor for like $2.99.
Yeah.
And BBD, you've got a cool story too of your World Championship win. I was there for it. What a match! It took more than an hour.
Well, I'm used to playing matches that long because I like to play stupid decks. But yeah, that was a crazy tournament and a crazy finals match, and I was just super in the zone for that match, and I don't know, everything just went well for me.
I'll talk about that. That's my favorite match ever.
Of all time, of all Magic ever played.
I've watched that match more than Brian has.
That is correct.
Yeah, I think that Game 3 was one of the best played games I've ever watched anyone ever play, and which is why I've watched it a bunch of times. Maybe I'm biased because it's Brian, but like, I go watch that match after coverage. Like, it is just one of the best matches of Magic.
Please watch that match because it's all downhill after there. So.
What are you talking about? You're sitting here with me right now.
Yeah.
Pretty good stuff.
It is. Yeah.
And something else cool about you two guys, you're new roommates. You're now living together, and you have kind of an interesting take on that, BBD.
Yeah, I now live in my dad's basement. So.
I also have an interesting take on that because I don't want to call you a roommate until you start paying rent.
Oh, yeah.
So,
let's work it out here, everybody.
Yeah, I'm not going to pay rent, so that's not going to happen. But.
How is it going? Somebody on dish duty? Actually, what I want to know is about, you're both in the MPL, of course. Are you testing together? Are you working together week to week? Are you kind of, a broom on the ceiling? Hey, come down here, look at my deck.
Actually, that's really interesting because somehow we got to the same 75 just randomly this weekend.
So I thought it was really interesting that like Brad and I communicated all throughout the MPL weekly play, and then just we never played the same deck once. I was like, I think this deck's really good, and he's like, cool. I'm gonna register this deck instead. I'm just not gonna even. He didn't even play my list. He was just like, yeah, that's cool.
We both played just
Celestia,
exact opposite versions of Esper Hero in weeks 4 and 5. We both played the same archetype, just different lists completely.
We'll talk a little bit about clinching your division titles, which of course is a huge deal, going straight into the top 16 here. Tell me a little bit about, you got yours first, but then you had to wait on this guy.
Yeah, so it was a nerve-wracking experience, honestly. Like I didn't think I was going to care as much about MPL weekly play as I did.
Yeah.
And as the weeks kept going, they were stressful. I was playtesting. I was stressed. Like, my day didn't start until the match was over. Like, I would just focus on it from morning until I played. And on the last day, actually, we played on the same day. And I won my match, and I come out and I celebrate. But then I just think about it. It's like, I'm not actually going to be happy about this, unless Brian does too. So while Brian was playing his match, I'm just pacing outside, back and forth on the porch, just like waiting for it. And I'm not going to lie, afterwards, like, my fiance Amber was witness. We did kind of just hug and jump around for like a good 5 minutes.
Oh, we absolutely did. Actually, it was interesting. I came outside and Brad thought I lost because he's like, "There's no way you could have won that fast." So.
Yeah, the longer it took, the better chances that Brian won in a matchup against Gruul versus Esper, right? So, like, it was only like 20 minutes. I'm like, no. I was so nervous.
Well, what is it like playing in the MPL Weekly too? What a small, interesting metagame that shifts week to week. And I know both of you are known for being really, really good at Standard. And Brad, you especially for tuning week to week. Is this your wheelhouse?
Well, I'm going to say it is, but I feel like my process was extremely chaotic for this go-around. I kind of just registered things last minute. I took in all the information and registered decks. Maybe they're good, maybe they weren't. I didn't play a ton of matches with them, but I stressed a lot. I liked Brian's process way more than mine this time around, even though we both were successful. Just like mastering the same archetype and getting really good with it. And I thought I wanted to be a moving target so that no one could metagame against me. But Brian was like, you know what I'm playing and I'm still going to beat you. So I don't really know what the process the best is, but his was way less stressful than mine.
Talk about how this went for you, BBD.
Yeah, I mean, I just really enjoy playing Esper Hero. It's like one of my favorite decks I've ever played. And it just happens. Why? You know what? I just like bad mid-range decks. I don't know what else to say.
Hey, there's 2 copies in the top 16.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I just like these like blue mid-range decks. I just really enjoy that style of play. And the deck is finally good. And I just knew that I knew my like sideboard plans with the deck. I knew like which cards I wanted for different metagames. I knew how to play the deck, like how to approach each matchup. And I figured I was better off just sticking with what I knew, even if my cards were face up on the table, than trying to like pick a new deck and not be like as skilled with it or know my matchups or even know if it was good.
So interesting, 2 different approaches, but both successful here in the MPL, getting to the top 16. So
well, mine was successful, his was just lucky.
Okay. Let's sort it out like that. So coming to this weekend in this tournament, you're both, as you said, playing the same 75 in Esper Hero. Now after you know who's playing what decks are being played overall, how do you feel about that decision?
It really depends on today, honestly. I'm not going to lie. I'll be strictly honest. Every time we see Esper Control lose, we are jumping up and down in our hotel room. Because that is a rough matchup. We didn't think that 17 copies were going to show up. When we saw that, we knew that today is the day that we need to see those decks lose because our deck is better prepared for the rest of the metagame.
Yeah, basically the most played deck by an astronomical amount is by far our worst matchup in the field. So
we got it.
All right, well, awesome stuff, guys. Best of luck to you tomorrow. Now it's time for you to go back to your hotel room, kick back, and watch other people struggle through. All right, thanks so much. All right, everybody, let's take a look at shuffling. We've got some tips from our coverage team.
I would go to tournaments and I'd see people do all this bridge shuffling and all this other stuff, and I wanted to be like the pros, right? You want to shuffle like they do.
I remember just locking myself in a room and shuffling my cards until I could do the bridge.
Normally when I shuffle somebody's deck, I usually pick it up and then I usually like to get a couple of corner riffles in here.
I'm a terrible shuffler in general, so I'm just going to say, to make your terrible shuffling look better, make sure you got good sleeves.
One thing that always surprises people is you don't have to look anymore. You just look at your opponent, stare them down, and you do some tricks.
This is an advanced move. You don't want to try this without some practice, but you cut it like that in the air.
Air cut.
I shuffle in a very boring fashion, just like cut it in half, and then like get it to overlap and push it back together.
I feel like I'm bending the cards.
It's all right, it's all right.
It didn't even happen.
I have a rather intense bridge in my riffle here, and people often complain.
If you want to really show that you master the card technique, you do the accordion. And I've been training for a long time. Do something like this, and they all fall apart.
All right, some awesome tips or not there for you from our coverage team and our players in the room here today. But let's take a look at our standings, where we are sitting in the tournament and where we have yet to go this afternoon. Take a look. 4 people undefeated in the room: Simon Gertzen, Kentaro Yamamoto, Gregory Orange, and Carlos Ramau in excellent position. Remember, they are looking for 6 wins. And then we've got a few players also on 3-1. Li Shitian, Jessica Estefan, Piotr Glogowski, and Ashley Espinoza sitting at 3-1. So those are your leaders, everybody. Those are the people to watch as we head through the afternoon. Now I'm going to toss it over to day 9 and get a look at our next feature match.
Oh, I'm super excited about this one. It's Nick Carlton versus Piotr Glogowski, and it's a matchup I'm super interested in talking a little bit about. I mean, first thing is Sultai Dreadhorde. Absolutely in love with Sultai Dreadhorde, even though it's not like super well represented, versus Piotr Glogowski's Esper Hero.
Yeah, I think kind of the first implementation of this was kind of the 4-color version of Command the Dreadhorde. You saw a lot of that. It got super popular, but I think ultimately people